Let's get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Stanimir Markov, or everybody calls me Stan. I am one of the founders and the CEO of Runecast, and also VCDX number 74. And I have here Aylin Sali, who is our CTO, and also VCAP. And today we're going to talk about how to automate the HCL checks in your VMware environment. So we scheduled the webinar for 1 hour, but I think it shouldn't take more than 30 minutes. We will show you a live demo on how to operate with Runecast Analyzer, where to see the HCL compatibility there. It's pretty simple, so that's why we don't really need the full hour for that. So we will first go through a quick intro on Runecast Analyzer. Maybe some of you don't know or don't have much experience with Runecast Analyzer, so I'll give you a quick preview on what we do. Then we'll talk about hardware compatibility list and how important, how crucial it is to be compatible, and maybe some potential issues that can happen if you're not. And then we will dive into the product itself. We will show you this latest feature that we released with Runecast Analyzer version 2.6. In the meantime, we can also collect questions. So if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat window. We will answer them in the end of the presentation. Also, this presentation is being recorded, so we will send you the recording a couple of days after the session. And also within the session, we will have a couple of polls. Very quick questions. The first one is coming up right now. I would like to understand how many of you have familiarity with Runecast Analyzer. So you can go ahead and answer. Just let us know how familiar you are with Runecast Analyzer. I know some of your current customers. I see also some partners. So let us know whether you're using it regularly or maybe tried it once or twice, or you're familiar with it but never actually used it, or you are hearing about Runecast Analyzer for the very first time. So I'll just give you a quick few seconds. Okay, so I see that almost half of you are using it regularly, but there's also 1/3 that are not familiar with the product at all. That's why let me close the poll right now, and we will move on to the next slide, which shows you the architecture of Runecast Analyzer. So Runecast Analyzer is a proactive management product for VMware, which analyzes continuously your configuration and logs, and discovers potential issues before they cause some major outages or security problems. Runecast Analyzer plugs into your vSphere, NSX, vSAN, and Horizon, so it covers all the layers of the SDDC, and it uses rules that are created based on various different sources of knowledge. You can see them on the left-hand side of the slide. One of the biggest sources of knowledge that we have is the VMware knowledge base, which contains over 30,000 different articles, and many of them are addressing some known issues. Then we have implemented rules based on the VMware best practices, which are coming from various white papers or the VMware documentation. We are also crawling automatically some social media outlets, so blogs, forums, some popular Twitter accounts as well. Because some of the known problems first are documented or they are announced, they emerge on one of those social media outlets before they are documented officially by the vendor. So our team of experts always makes sure to vet and validate all these sources of knowledge and to accurately turn those into rules that are then used by Runecast Analyzer to discover the problems in your environment. We have also automated the security hardening guides by VMware, and not only the security hardening guides, but implemented security compliance checks for some very popular compliance profiles, like PCI DSS for financial institutions, DCD for federal agencies, and HIPAA for healthcare institutions. Important to mention here is that we not only implemented the automated technical checks for those compliance profiles, but we have written custom justifications why specific technical check or configuration maps to a security control and requirement of the respective security compliance standard. which is great information to have. If you have audit one day, you would not only go ahead and show the technical checks or configuration of your VMware environment, you'll be asked to justify and to prove that you are actually compliant against those standards, some of which are quite vaguely explained or vaguely documented on their official pages. So these justifications combined with the historical data that you also get with Runecast Analyzer. So every scan that Runecast Analyzer does is saved in your Runecast Analyzer appliance. So you can extract evidence that you have been compliant against one of those standards for some specific period of time, let's say for the last half a year or 1 year. So out of the box, you get all that information that you can just provide to your auditors. We use all these sources of knowledge to analyze configuration and logs and discover some potential issues before they turn into some major problems. So it was only logical for us to look for other sources of information which are human readable, but it will be of great benefit if they were automated. And we have been asked about this feature a lot, and that is the automation of the hardware compatibility list. So before we move on to the HCL automation, a little bit more about Runecast Analyzer. It runs fully on premises. It doesn't upload any information over to the internet, so it can work in the most secure environments. We even provide 2 ways to update your appliance. Obviously, there's more and more documented issues out there and best practices, so it is recommended to update your appliance regularly. You can configure it to connect to our central repository, to download the updates regularly and to apply them automatically, so you don't have to actually take any action on that. It can even go via secure proxy, or for extremely secure environments, you can use the offline updates. You can download an ISO with the update from our website, attach it to the virtual machine of Runecast Analyzer, and apply the update this way. Runecast Analyzer is also very scalable. So if you have tens of vCenters, hundreds of ESXi hosts, or tens of thousands of virtual machines, you can handle all that environment with one single Runecast Analyzer instance. It comes with plugins for the vCenter web client, so all the information of detected issues from Runecast is seen directly in the vCenter web client. Whether you use the HTML5 or the Flash version, it will work. And it integrates very nicely with vRealize Orchestrator. We developed a VRO plugin for Runecast, which now comes with out-of-the-box security compliance remediation workflows. So basically, if you have VRO, you can deploy the Runecast plugin there, and you have already workflows that you can just start and choose the issues, the security issues you want to remediate, and the VRO Runecast plugin will do it automatically for you. Some of these things that I'm mentioning right now, we have added just recently. So even some of you that have been using Runecast for a while, it might be something new and useful for you to know. All right, and of course, Runecast Analyzer is shipped as appliance. It's less than 1 gig in size, so obviously it is really easy to deploy. It's already pre-installed, pre-configured. You can just set up the IP address, connect it to your environment, and already start getting the results of some potential issues. Now, let's move on to HCL. And I would like to open the next poll, because we had quite a lot of requests to implement the automated HCL. Before we did that, it took a few months to develop that. It was quite complex. So I just want to make sure that, or just to understand whether any of you had actual problems with HCL. So the problem could be a serious issue that was caused by some incompatibilities, or maybe you just wasted a lot of time validating the compatibility with the HCL, which is, I think, I would be surprised if someone didn't waste a lot of time. So maybe for some of you, you'd have to answer both the first and the second question, but let us know which is the biggest problem that you encountered in relation to HCL. All right, I see that a big part of you already voted, and there's only a few that never had a problem related to HCL, which is great. You were either lucky or maybe not working extensively with VMware. Based on our experience of our customers, issues can happen a lot, especially when you try to really validate your compatibility against HCL. So let's look at why is it complex to figure out whether you're fully compatible or not. First of all, you have a lot of different server components. So it's not enough to only check your server and model and ESXi release, CPU series, number of sockets, BIOS, all of these things. It's already quite a lot, but it's really not sufficient for you to determine that your environment is compatible or not. You have to look into the I/O devices as well. And each I/O device also comes with a different brand, model, device type, again, correlation with the ESXi release and combination of driver and firmware. And that's something you have to do for each I/O device, which can be quite cumbersome, quite time-taking, and mistakes can happen. The HCL database is ever changing, so you have to make sure that you are compatible even if there are changes happening there. Of course, it's really difficult to know if anything changed in the HCL. And anytime you do an update, either some major one of your ESXi hosts or even updating some drivers, you have to do this revalidation again. You have to really make sure that you're compatible at all times. There are some methods out there to automate HCL, but obviously, especially that we received a lot of requests for that, none of them was really providing a perfect way on how to ensure that you're continuously compliant against the latest information in the HCL. It is really crucial to be compatible. You can avoid a lot of serious issues like purple screen of death. You can ensure that you'll be supported by VMware because you have to make sure that your configuration is compatible. And this can really save you a lot of troubleshooting time. We had a lot of reported problems from customers. They spent really days or sometimes weeks of troubleshooting together with VMware support, and in the end they figured out that there was a problem with incompatibility with some small I/O device, some driver firmware. So it was really difficult to discover. I think we've spoken enough on the slides, and it is time really to switch to the live demo. So I'm just going to give the word over to Aylin. And Aylin, let me know if you can start presenting.
I can't yet.
Okay, let me make you presenter. All right. So what we're going to do now is we will look into the interface, and you will see live in reality the Runecast Analyzer interface and how you can figure out if you're hardware compatible or not. So Aylin, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Stan. Before I actually turn it over to the interface, I'm pretty sure you are all familiar with this screen. This is the VMware compatibility guide. This is the main UI that you use to actually check the compatibility of your servers and I/O devices. There are lots of options. There are lots of or even more options for the I/O devices, and it's pretty cumbersome to actually use it manually. So just to save a lot of time for you in this, and also to avoid any issues that may come from incompatibilities, we really decided to cover this. It was quite challenging, but we are really happy with what we developed, and we're sure that there will be a lot of value for you in using this feature. So in order to use the hardware compatibility, you need to have Runecast Analyzer 2.6.0 latest. If you are running Runecast Analyzer, just make sure to update to this version, and then you will get the hardware compatibility within the configuration analysis section in the UI. So once I switch there, I will see the inventory of ESXi hosts that we have in this environment. Let me just move away the menu so we have a more real estate. So here you can also filter out ESXi host, or you can focus on specific clusters as needed. So you will see all the servers and their compatibility. If there are at a glance, you'll easily spot like where the issues will be. So we are checking the compatibility of the server. So you'll see based on the ESXi release, the model of the server, the CPU family, the BIOS that is used, and also the IO devices. You'll easily see where the problem is. So just focusing on the ones which are reported as okay, these Dell servers in our environment. We have here all the details that are relevant to the compatibility listed on the server tab. So you will see that partner model, CPU series, even number of sockets we are trying to analyze against the HCL. So here in this screen, you will see that there is the host data. So this is what we collect actually from your ESXi host. So this is the data that is reported by the server. And here is the data that is recorded in the HCL. So if we have a match, even if it's not a complete match, we use some advanced NLP techniques to figure out the matches here. So you will see the green check mark of those specific components. In some cases, there might be some nodes related to that server or IO device coming from the HCL page, and you can easily access the HCL page for this server. We have the button here which will lead you directly to the HCL page for that specific device. So here, if there are any important nodes that are listed, you'll be able to see them as well covered here. And looking at the IO devices, you'll see all the IO devices that are present on this ESXi host and some details related to them. So for IO devices, just going to the HCL, again, we have this button that will lead you directly to the page for that specific device. These IDs are really important. So when you check the compatibility for an IO device, the most important information that you will need in order to find this device in the compatibility guide are the device IDs, the vendor ID, and so on, IDs that are needed to correlate it, because in some cases the name may not match, but these IDs are the important ones. So again, here we've correlated all the relevant components of this IO device. So the brand, model, and device type, they represent one entity that can be correlated, then depending on the ESXi release that you have installed and the one that is supported on the HCL. And again, driver firmware combination will represent here if there are any issues with that. So these servers are green, so we can now focus maybe to like some problematic servers that we have here in this environment. So this Dell server, we've seen that there are some issues with the BIOS. So let's switch to the server tab. So as we can see here, the partner model, CPU series, number of sockets matched. So we know for sure that this server is in the HCL. We can even go to that page and see all the details as they are on the live on the HCL page. But going back to it, we see that the BIOS that's actually there on the server now, 2.8.0, is actually not supported for ESXi 6.5. So looking again at the compatibility guide, we can actually see that yes, for 6.5, that BIOS version is not supported, but you can easily deduce that if you just upgrade, patch that ESXi host, you can really get it supported using this BIOS version. There seems to be also a problem on the IO devices that is being reported. So we can see that this adapter yeah, when we check again the details there, we'll see that it's found on the HCL. ESXi version is supported, but the driver firmware combination is not supported by VMware. So for this driver that's on the ESXi now, the firmware version 21.2.5 is not supported. You need to have a minimum firmware version of 21.3.4. So yeah, it's very easy to identify which incompatibilities you may have there on the server or IO devices, and it's also very easy to pinpoint where this issue was spotted. So just checking a few more examples on these HP servers here. When we check the server again, we see that it's recognized, it's supported by VMware, but is not supported for ESXi 6.7. So it's supported for 6.0 to 6.5 update 2. So for this version, it's not supported. Looking at the IO devices again for on this server, we can see that the firmware driver combination that is there is below the minimum version that is supported by VMware. All the information, all this table that you can see here, you can actually export. We will generate a CSV report, so you can open that. Yeah, we don't have Excel on the terminal server, but if I just go to my laptop here, exporting it will generate the CSV, which then I can open, and you will get all the information that is listed here in the UI. You'll also get it directly in Excel, so you can organize it as you need. You can filter it, and you'll be able to have also a report in CSV, pretty similar to RV-Tools in the type of in the way you play with the export. If you have a large number of ESXi hosts, yeah, as I mentioned, you can easily use the inventory just to filter and focus on the important parts of your environment, or you can also only like show the hosts with issues. So we'll report here any host that reported some incompatibilities, and you can see at a glance where these are. We have it released, the HCL analysis is released. We have it as a public beta for now. We are collecting feedback, so in case there are some mismatches, and in rare cases it can happen, because as I mentioned, we use some NLP techniques to correlate and to match the host data with the HCL data, because in some cases it's not really matching fully as reported on the HCL. So the data that is on the HCL website does not always reflect the format that is being reported by the ESXi. So you can easily click the send feedback button, and you can share those findings with us. We are very satisfied with the level of accuracy that we're getting with our matching, but yeah, as I mentioned, in some rare cases there might be some mismatch that we can look at and try to understand and fix if possible. Yeah, going back to IO devices, actually one of the values that is there, especially for automatic matching, is that in some cases, yeah, as I mentioned, the HCL data would report something a bit different. So that's what happened actually on one of our customers, where they were checking this manually. So they were looking at the HCL for the IO device, and they were trying to find the IO device based on the name of the device. but the name of the device actually was found like multiple times in the HCL, and it was reporting like different driver and firmware levels, because I think that, as I remember there, the issue was that the provider of the adapter was acquired by another company, so they rebranded it. So that's why there were like different entries there, and the only way how to actually just pinpoint exactly which device that was is using the IDs. So the customer really thought that they have some incompatibilities based on the name, but then when they installed and ran Runecast Analyzer, they saw that actually the device is compatible based on the IDs that that are reported, and we used to correlate it. And that's just before they were actually planning to downgrade the driver for that device.
Yeah, I think that's pretty useful, and so it really helps you discover some quite hidden things. So even if you check things manually, this can make sure that there's really high accuracy in the compatibility result. One other thing to mention, especially for those that are not that familiar with Runecast Analyzer, you can schedule automated scans, for example, to run every hour, and that goes not only for the HCL, but for anything that we're scanning against. So knowledge base articles, best practices, security checks, and so on and so forth, and that includes the HCL as well. So you get that continuous assurance that you are compatible, or you will see whether there's some incompatibility appearing. Now we're coming to the end of the webinar, and as you can see, it's really simple. Basically, all the information that you need to know: are you compatible or not? And if you're not compatible, what exactly is not compatible? What action should I take? So one thing I really like is that we also provide the recommendations of the compatible, for example, BIOS versions. So I would encourage you, maybe give you just one more minute to ask some questions. We have a couple of questions here, so I'll just run through them. Aylin, if you could help me with them. First one is, what happens if my firmware or driver versions are higher than what appears in the VMware HCL?
Yeah, for the firmware version, especially the HCL page also says that whenever there are the firmware levels higher than what's listed there, it's the IO device is actually compatible. So for the moment, that will be reported as like possibly incompatible for now. And this is again like part of all the beta improvements that we're doing. So that will be reported as compatible on the next release.
Okay, and we have another question here: if we plan to include perhaps manual SAN storage HCL. We are planning very soon to add some additional improvement to the HCL. I think we will announce them maybe in a couple of weeks' time. So for now, until we have the final version, until we finalize it, we would not be able to share much. But specifically about SAN storage HCL, I'll probably go back to the one who asked the question, maybe to discuss further details. Okay, guys, I hope that you are as excited as we are about this new feature. We already had some great feedback, and one thing I really love is that you can provide feedback in the product. It's so easy. So in case you have some suggestion or you think that something is not working as it should be, you can just with a couple of clicks you can provide us the feedback. And I'll just make myself presenter to show again our contacts. You can follow us on Twitter, and also in the end of this webinar we have a very short survey with one single question, which is, what is the next feature you want to see in Runecast Analyzer? Especially those of you that are customers or that have been following us over the years, you know that we're very agile, very quick in satisfying your wishes and making sure the product is improving. So please tell us what you would like to see there. If you have some big problem that you want to solve, especially with VMware, let us know what it is, and we will evaluate that. So with that, I'm going to end this webinar. I would like to thank you all for taking the time, and I encourage you to go ahead and try Runecast Analyzer. We're looking forward to your feedback. Thank you very much.